My name is Alicia, and in this week's live lesson, we are going to talk about how to use future perfect tense. This is a very challenging grammar point for lots of people, but I hope today we can break it down into small parts so that you can understand why we need this grammar point and how to use it. I get messages from you sometimes from people saying, do I really need to know this grammar point? Do I really need to study this? Yes, you do. The answer is yes, you do. You need to know this grammar point because it's one of the basic grammar points of English. So today we're going to talk about this and talk about lots of different example sentences. So I hope that you know how to use this by the end of today's lesson. So as you join, please make sure to hit the like button and share this video so that other people can find today's lesson. So while we wait for people to join us live, a couple super quick announcements. First is about this banner at the bottom of the screen. It says get free PDF cheat sheets. If you have not checked this recently, please go check it. The team, I've showed you this many times, but the team has a lot of different PDF, downloadable cheat sheets with lots of different topics. So these are for upgrading your grammar and upgrading your vocabulary. So when I say upgrading your grammar, I mean these, the ones I showed you before, like these, are for vocabulary, but the team has some new PDFs that will help you to work on your grammar also. So check the link below the video if you're watching on YouTube, or above the video if you're watching on Facebook. You will find this page. So if you do not have an account at EnglishClass101.com, that's okay. You can find on this page a section right here to make an account. It is free. And then if you scroll down on this page, you will find all the different PDFs you can download. So these are like the vocabulary ones that you can find here. If you go down some more, then you can find some other new ones that maybe you haven't seen before. Like right here, so adjectives, verbs, and stuff like that. Some everyday conversation practice sheets. So check this out. You can get all of them. You don't have to choose only one. You can choose all of them and download them and practice with this. So check this out. If you want to go and get those, they are free. So go do that after the lesson. That's announcement number one. Announcement number two, as always, if you have questions for me, please send me your questions. Please send them. Your grammar questions, your interesting vocabulary questions, your idiom questions, whatever, something weird you heard in a movie somewhere, send it to me so we can talk about it. So this is a very old screenshot from Ask Alicia, our weekly viewer question and answer series, but we still do it. So send it to me at EnglishClass101.com/ask-Alicia. That is a very long URL, so check the link in the YouTube description to find the official question submission page. Please send me your questions on the official page, because if you send it to me on like Instagram or in a YouTube comment or a Facebook comment, I am probably not going to see it. There are so many comments every day. It's just too much. I can't read them all. I have work to do. So please send me your questions on the official question submission page, okay? And if you want to find me on social media, you can also find my Instagram and my Twitter links in the YouTube description too. Phew. Okay, so that's it for our announcements. It looks like everything is going good. Hi, Facebook. What's up? Juan and Hamza and Harry and Blanca and Noijan. Hello. Jose. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Ayub, Mohammed. Hi. Thanks for coming. YouTube. What's up, YouTube? Vivek. Hello. Jonathan. Hello. Jose from El Salvador. What's up? And Kanwal Nguyen. Hi. Rastria, hi. Mohammed from Morocco, hello. Matthias from Argentina, hi. Dilshad, hey Alicia, how are you? I am great. Okay, everybody's here. Let's look at today's lesson point. If you missed it, today we're going to talk about how to use future perfect tense. So this is a kind of tricky grammar point, I think, because we don't use it as much, but it is very important to know. So let's look at today's lesson boards. Also, if you haven't, make sure to like this video and share this lesson. I'm going to do it right now. Like, share, and okay, good. I'm done. Okay, so let's go to our lesson boards for today's lesson. If you want to take a screenshot, now is your first chance. Go. Okay, so we're going to talk first. What is future perfect? What do we need this grammar point to do? Lots of you ask me this question, like, why do I need to know this? So this is step one today. What is future perfect? what am I doing with this grammar point? So we're going to look at that in a timeline and some example sentences. 2, we are going to look at how to make future perfect. Today we're going to look at how to make the basic form and how to make the progressive form. Okay? And in part 3, we're going to look at a lot of examples, and I'm going to talk about one sentence pattern that we use with future perfect a lot, and that is using future perfect with the expression by the time. So let's get started. Today we have a lot to cover, so please send me your questions. Take your notes and send me your questions. I'll try to check them live. Let's go. So lots to cover. First, very important point. What is future perfect, right? Lots of you ask me this question. So when do we use future perfect? So here's the answer. We use future perfect tense to talk about future actions and conditions in relation to a different future action or condition. So you might think, what does that mean? So when we use future perfect tense, we have like one point in time that is like an action or a day or a time period, and we have another future condition or a future action. So there are two kind of future points or future actions we want to talk about, and we want to show the relationship between those two. So we use this grammar point when, for example, we want to talk about like our schedules for usually like key life points. So for example, when we want to talk about like moving to a new city or moving to a new country, starting a new job, maybe starting or stopping school. So we use future perfect tense for these things. And we also sometimes use it in everyday life just to talk about the relationship between our future activities, okay? So this is, I know people say like, what? Why do I need this grammar point? It can be very helpful to understand kind of a future timeline, which action will happen first. So let's look at how we can understand this on a timeline now, okay? So here's my basic timeline. Maybe you know this timeline. I use it a lot. So here we have the star is now. Yeah, this lesson, this video you're watching right now. Here's the past. So we're not going to look at the past today. Here we have the future, into the future. So with future perfect tense, we have two actions or two conditions or 2 points in time. And you can see there's a wavy line with arrows, yeah? We are showing some relationship between these two with future perfect tense. So basically, we have usually with future perfect tense a point in time. So the point in time could be tomorrow, it could be next week, it could be the day you graduate from college, and we have some future perfect condition or action. So there are usually these two ideas in each future perfect sentence. The key is we want to talk about the relationship between these two things. There's some kind of relationship here, okay? So this maybe is challenging to understand. So let's look at 2 basic example sentences and break down what's happening here, okay? So first one, when I graduate from university, when I graduate from university, I will have been a student for 16 years. When I graduate from university, I will have been a student for 16 years. Okay, so in this sentence, here is my future perfect tense right here. I will have been right here. I'm going to talk about how to make this in part 2, okay? So let's break down the 2 parts of this sentence then. So here I have when I graduate from university. This is my future point in time, my future action or my future condition, okay? So now it's not time to graduate. I want to talk about in the future, yeah? So at this future point, when I graduate from university, I will have been a student for 16 years. So this sentence means at this point in time, or maybe at this point in time, at the time I graduate from university, this condition, I will have been a student for 16 years. That means in this time before my future point, before graduating from university, my condition, being a student, will have been for 16 years. So I want to talk about these two conditions, yeah? Graduating from university is my kind of key point in time, and I want to talk about me being a student. So how long have I been a student? We use future perfect tense to express this kind of idea, okay? So I have here like future action or condition 1, future action or condition 2. It's not always perfectly one after the other. Sometimes they're maybe like the same point in time. So it depends a little on the sentence. Okay? Let's look at another example of this. Okay? So here's one maybe that's easy to relate to. By the time I finish work tonight, by the time I finish work tonight, my future point in time, yeah? My family will have eaten dinner. My family will have eaten dinner. Okay? So here, let's break this down again. Here's my future point in time. By the time I finish work tonight. So the speaker or the writer is talking now. They are not finished with work now. They want to talk about the future. So they finish work maybe here in the future. So they're saying by this time, which means in this period here, by this point in time, by the time I finish work tonight, my family will have eaten dinner. So they're saying in this time period, my family will eat dinner. But we use this future perfect tense to express the relationship between the two ideas. Okay? So some people say like, well, can't I just use a basic like future tense? Like, can't I just say will or going to here? And you can. I mean, you need to change the grammar of your sentence. Like you could say, for example, my family is going to eat dinner at 7 p.m. I'm going to finish work at 10 p.m. You can do that with simple future tense statements. Yes, that's 100% true. It's totally okay to do that. But this is a way to level up your speech. Yeah? So it's important to know this because you will also hear these kinds of grammar patterns. Okay, so let's see. Some examples are coming in. I'm going to try to check them live. I see them on YouTube now. Facebook, if you have questions or examples, please let me know. Okay, I'm going to look for your questions. There was one I just saw. Imesh says, does by the time mean around that time? Think of by the time, like actually we're going to practice this a lot in part 3, but by the time means, so for example, if it's here, this blue part, if I say by the time it's blue or something, it means any time up until that point. So like this is like the deadline point for the action. So it could mean exactly this time or around this time, but it means sometime between now and the future point in time is by the time. That's the period that by the time refers to. So I hope that answers your question. Okay. Kanwal says, by the time I meet him, he will have completed his project. Nice one. Okay. Miguel says, when I get home, my brother will have finished his homework. Okay. Nice. When I sleep, I will have been, be careful. When I sleep, I will have been bought a stock. So maybe be careful. Let's focus on that last part. I will have bought. So we're going to talk in part 2 about how to make this grammar point, okay? Right now I'm just showing you some example sentences. Estimable, I hope I said your name right, on Facebook says, can I use the present, like present tense, I think, before future perfect? Yes, it is very common to use a perfect, a present tense grammar pattern before perfect tense, before future perfect. We are going to practice that in part 3. I'm going to show a very common grammar pattern we use with this point, okay? Okay, so let's continue to part 2, how to make this grammar, because I think we need to practice that a little bit. We're going to look at 2 types today, okay? So this is what we do with future perfect tense. So we use it to talk about the relationship between 2 future points in time or 2 future actions. Okay? All right, so great work so far. Let's take a super quick break and then we'll go to part 2, how to make this grammar. Okay? So if you missed it here, I want to remind you, the team has free PDF cheat sheets, which I showed you earlier. If you have not checked this out recently, please take a look. The team, they're always making new ones, so go check this just sometimes. But you can get all of these for free. I showed you some here earlier that are about like grammar practice, so you can get some for like adjectives and verbs, daily conversations. They also, in the daily conversation ones, there's also like, here you can see like complaints and making phone calls, stuff like that. So if you want to practice kind of those everyday topics, you can download these and get some vocabulary and some grammar practice, totally free with these. So check these out. You can find them at EnglishClass101.com. There's a link below the video if you're watching on YouTube and above the video if you're watching on Facebook. Okay, so check it out. All right, let's see. I'm looking for your questions. Good, some examples. Oops, sorry. Some examples are coming in. Hosai Gani on YouTube says, by the 2024, I will have been finished my school. Okay, close. By 2024. We don't need the before a year. And okay, I'm starting to see some people, great work sending your example sentences in. Make a note of your example sentence and fix it after part 2, yeah? So in part 2, right now, I'm going to talk about how we make this grammar point, okay? So let's talk about this now and try to send me your example sentence again after you check it with part 2, okay? So let's go. Part 2, if you haven't, make sure to like this video because it helps us with the algorithm, yeah? So please do that and let's go to part 2. Okay. Ooh, nice one from Juan on Facebook. When I retire from my job, I will have been a teacher for 30 years. Nice example sentence. Juan, crushed it. Okay, let's go. Future perfect. So how do we make this grammar point? Some of you are very, very close in the chat. Let's review how we make these. So first, let's look. Oh, shoot. I just erased part of my board. Sorry, everybody. Okay, so let's take a look at how we do this with the basic way to make a future perfect sentence, okay? So a basic future perfect grammar pattern looks like this. So we have our subject plus will have and then the past participle form of a verb, okay? To make it negative, we put not right here, yeah? Will not have. This is not so common. We don't see a lot of negative future perfect sentences, but sometimes you do. So what does this look like? So let's look at just this part. Imagine this is just part of a sentence, yeah? For example, he will have seen that movie, yeah? Or she will not have eaten meat. So these are basic future perfect structures. So here we have subject, he, will have, right here, will have, and then seen, the past participle form of the verb see, yeah? So he will have seen that movie is our future perfect structure, okay? One more in the negative, she will not have eaten meat. She will not have eaten meat. So again, we have this will, and in this case, it's a negative, so I have not before have. Will not have eaten, past participle, okay? So this is the basic form. Some of you I saw earlier were writing will not have, like have been and then the past participle form. You don't need to include been right here. Only the past participle form of the verb, okay? So if you sent an example sentence like that earlier, you can check it and send it again, okay? So let's look now at the second form, the progressive form, and then I'm going to talk about the difference between the two. Okay, so the progressive form, so future perfect progressive, okay? This is very similar, but we do subject plus will have been ing verb right here. Will have been ing verb, okay? So this, maybe if you have studied past perfect, you recognize this. I won't have been. Oh, sorry, that's future perfect. But this follows the same pattern as other perfect tenses, yeah? So like we have been studying, yeah? Or they had been sleeping, right? We use the same pattern here, but we just put a will in front of it to show that it's a future perfect tense. Okay, so here are some examples of this structure with the progressive form. So they will have been sleeping, right? They will have been sleeping. This shows us the action was continuing or is going to continue, okay? Or we will have been driving, right? So these are just part of our sentences in these cases, okay? Or in these cases, okay? So we can use progressive to show these continuing future actions, or we can use the basic form to show complete actions in the future, okay? So let's break down what is the difference now between these progressive and these basic future perfect forms, okay? So progressive, this one, the ing form, this progressive future perfect expresses a continuing future action, okay? So we want to talk about something in the future, right? Something in the future continuing. So in this case, sleeping. So someone will have been sleeping for a long time. Or driving. We will have been driving for 10 hours, yeah? We're talking about a continuing action in the future. Second, the basic form. So the basic future perfect form up here, this expresses an action or condition that will finish at a future point, okay? It'll finish at a future point. So he will have seen that movie. So we imagine at a future point, some person will have the experience of seeing a movie, or she will not have eaten meat for 3 months, something like that. So this is referring to something that is not continuing, yeah? So this is the difference between basic and progressive. We're going to practice this in part 3 with our example sentences, okay? So here is how we make future perfect tense, okay? All right, I'm looking for your questions. BJ says they will have been traveling. Nice, good little example. So these are parts of the sentences here we are practicing, okay? Let's see, I don't see other examples. I see people saying hi. Hello, everybody. So, Mauricio, what's up? So like she will have been studying for 8 hours straight. Yes, nice one. She will have been studying for 8 hours straight. By Monday, I'll have been studying around the clock. Yeah, I would say if you want to be specific, like when you say by Monday, it's very specific, right? So by Monday, I'll have been studying for, I don't know, 3 days straight or something like that. So kind of the feeling with this is we want to be really like specific about the relationship between two actions or a couple points in time here. Okay. Let's see. I can't read your name on Facebook. It says, I will have been watching you. Good. Okay. Let's go to part 3. So let's practice. I want to practice now a lot of examples and show you a really common grammar structure that we use with this tense. Okay. So really quickly, oh my gosh, time went so fast. If you missed it, I'll take a super quick break. If you missed it, don't forget to check out the link below the video to get these free PDF cheat sheets. I showed you some earlier, but if you have not checked this recently, the team has made a lot of new PDFs for you to download and work on your vocabulary, grammar. They have some good phrases. There's a business English one too. I know lots of you are studying to improve your business English skills. There is one, I don't have it handy right now. There is one for business. Also travel as well. I know more people are traveling these days. You can find some ideas for things to study for your upcoming travel there too. So check this. You can find all of these for free. Not just one, just go get all of them. Put them on your phone or put them on your computer. You can find them all for free at EnglishClass101.com. Okay, let's go to the last one. So let's look at some examples. What are we doing with this grammar point? How do we actually make full sentences? Let's take a look at, I have 4 here. All of these examples feature the by the time structure, by the time. So they all start with by the time or by this time. So I wanted to practice this because it has kind of an interesting grammar pattern. And I see lots of people make mistakes with this grammar pattern. So let's take a look at what's happening here. And I hope you can learn how to use this structure. So let's use future perfect tense in these examples. These are just daily life examples for future perfect tense. Okay, so by this time next year, I will have worked at this company for 10 years. By this time next year, I will have worked at this company for 10 years. So, what is happening in this sentence? By this time next year, here's my future reference point, yeah? By this time next year, so now it's like October 2022, yeah? So that means October 2023, by this time next year, so that's my future reference point, my future key point. I will have worked at this company for 10 years. So in this case, we're talking about a future condition that will be true. Yeah? So this is saying like maybe I started at this company 10 years ago in October, right? So I'm saying by this time next year, 9 years ago in October, I will have worked at this company for 10 years. So we're talking about a future reference point and another future condition that will be true. I will have worked at this company for 10 years. And yes, if you want to use a progressive form here, that's okay. By this time next year, I will have been working at this company for 10 years. If you want to emphasize the continuing status, the continuing condition, that's okay. You can do that also, okay? So let's continue to the next one. So you can see here I used by this time next year, so a very specific point in the future. Here we have by the time. So we use this by the time before some other action we want to talk about that we know is going to happen. But the grammar, it's important to note this grammar. So let's look at this sentence and break down this grammar, okay? So by the time our boss arrives at the office, we will have been working for 2 hours. By the time our boss arrives at the office, we will have been working for 2 hours. So by the time, okay, so we have this point. So this shows us up until the time our boss arrives. Notice here too, by the time our boss arrives, this grammar is just like simple present tense grammar, yeah? So this arrives, right? So our boss arrives, like he or she arrives, right? It's the same thing. Sometimes right here is where I see learners make mistakes. They put will or going to sometimes here. I understand it's a future point, right? But with this by the time pattern, we don't use a will or a going to. So like by the time our boss will arrive, nope. Or by the time our boss is going to arrive, nope. We don't use will or going to here. Use this, think of it as a simple present tense grammar pattern, yeah? By the time our boss arrives at the office, and then we will have been working for 2 hours. So we want to express that our team, our maybe staff, the time period of working will be 2 hours, and then our boss will arrive, yeah? So this is what we express with this sentence pattern, okay? All right, let's continue on. I'm looking for your questions. I don't see any yet. So let's go to another by the time example. So again, we have the same grammar we need to think about. By the time we finish our school project, we will have been studying the topic for 3 months. By the time we finish our school project, we will have been studying the topic for 3 months. Okay? So again, we have this by the time, and we finish, right? So again, we use this same kind of simple present tense grammar here. So we finish. So not we will finish or we are going to finish. We don't use that future tense grammar here. So by the time we finish our school project, there's my reference point, future reference point, the finish line of our project, we will have been studying. So we have a progressive form. We will have been studying. We will continuously. So this shows a continuing action. So we will have been studying the topic for 3 months. Okay? So again, this shows us future point, and all the time until the future point equals 3 months. Yeah? So the action in that time was studying the topic. Yeah? So 3 months is the time period, and the finish point of our project is the end point. Okay? So we communicate a lot with these kinds of sentences, yeah? Okay. Let's see. Sergey says, I will have done this work by 8 o'clock. All right, cool. Maybe if you want to be specific about like finishing, you could say, I will have finished this by 8 o'clock. That can be good too. Just to show that it's 100% finished. You could change the verb from done to finished there, to be clear. Okay. Kavi, nice one, says, by this time, oh, careful, not by this time, but maybe by this time next year. This one right here. So get rid of the. So by this time next year, I will have completed my diploma course. Is that true? That's cool. Okay. Dilshad says, by the time I finish my university, or maybe by the time I finish university, I will have been studying for 4 years. Nice. Okay. Naeli, by this time next year, I will have traveled to another country. So really close. Don't forget this guy right here. I will have traveled, your verb. Yeah, you put it in parentheses. I will have traveled to another country, and your sentence is perfect. Okay. Facebook, what's up? Facebook, okay. Let's see. I can't read your username. I think it's maybe in Farsi. I'm not sure. By this time next week. So by this time next week. So this right here. This means the same time next week or the same time next month. Yeah. By this time next week, I will have started watching you for 3 weeks. So we don't start, right? Think of so your verb shouldn't be start here. I will have been watching you for 3 weeks. Maybe would be more natural here, okay? Guille says, by this time last year. Remember, this is future perfect tense, yeah? So we don't use this to talk about past actions, yeah? We want to practice future. We have to use future activities. So we don't say, by this time last year. By talks about a future deadline. You could say, at this time last year, my parents celebrated their wedding anniversary. But be careful with that. So no past tense with this grammar point. Okay, so let's go to the last couple of examples then. Okay, so we already looked at this one. Okay, so we looked at this, right? We did. Okay, let's go to the last one. Let's go to the very last sentence because I am already late as usual. So another this time. So by this time next month, we will have driven all across Europe on our vacation. So by this time next month, we will have driven all across Europe on our vacation. So again, by this time next month. So that means like today, yeah, October, mid-October 2022. We're saying at the same time next month in the future. So by that time, up until that time, we will have driven all across Europe on our vacation. So that means by that time next month, we will, have visited this and this and this country driving. We will have driven. So to drive. This is the past participle form of the verb to drive. We will have driven all across Europe on our vacation. Okay? All right. So this is what we do with future perfect tense. We use it to talk about future plans and future conditions in relation to another future plan or another future condition. So this, I understand this one, it does take some practice to get used to, but we can communicate a lot with these sentences. And these by the time and by this time, next month or next week or next year, whatever. So these can be really, really useful patterns to use when you make future tense sentences. Okay? All right. Why not we will drive all across? So we're not talking about a simple future tense action. We will drive all across by this time. We need to talk about the action in relationship to another future action. So I mentioned really quickly the difference between future tense and future perfect tense in this lesson. Maybe I'll make a whiteboard video about that though. Okay. Okay, I have to finish there. So some people are sending some things not related to this question, to today's topic, so please send them to me for the Ask Alicia series. Yeah, I would love to get your questions for the Ask Alicia series if you have something different, a question different from today's topic. There's a link in the YouTube description. Phew, okay, we have to finish there. I'm very late already. Sorry, team. Okay, let's finish there. I will show you today's lesson board so you can take a screenshot. Now is your last chance. Ready, go. Okay, so today we talked about what is future tense, or what is future perfect tense, rather. How do we use it? Why should we care? Second, we talked about how we make future perfect tense. And third, we talked about some examples with by the time or by this time, and so on. So this is a very good tense to know. It will take time to practice, and that's okay. You're just learning how to use it, right? So don't worry if it's challenging. That's okay. So we'll finish there for this week, but of course I will be back next week. Next week's lesson information. Where are you? Here you are. Next week I'll be back again, as always. Next week I'll be back on Wednesday, October 19th at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is New York City time. If you don't know your local time, please use your amazing Google skills, or you can set a notification on YouTube or on Facebook, or if you follow me on Instagram, I almost always post a link and a topic reminder in my stories, so please check that out. Next week, we're going to talk about how to talk about changes. So, for example, it's getting colder. How do we use getting, these ing things, to talk about changes, gradual changes? How do we use comparatives? Like, oh, it's not as cold as it was last week. Or how do we use like repetition? Like, oh, it's getting harder and harder to do this, or it's getting warmer and warmer outside. How do we use repetition? How do we do those things to talk about changes? This will be the focus for next week's live lesson. So please join me. Okay? Yeah, that was a lot. So thanks for sticking around. Thank you for your great questions and your example sentences with this challenging grammar point. That was awesome. Thank you for liking and sharing this video too. We really, really appreciate it. Don't forget to go check out, you can get all of these for free. Oh my gosh, I'm dropping them. Go get all of this stuff for free. You can find all of this from the link below the video if you're watching on YouTube, or above the video if you're watching on Facebook at EnglishClass101.com. So do that, check it out, study like crazy, and I will see you again next time. Have a great day, have a great week, have a great week.